Hello and welcome to Chapter 1, Section 3, last section of the chapter. Be sure to be taking lots of notes on all these. You can use this set of notes on the test. Also, please read your book, take notes from the book. You are welcome to use those notes also on the test. Okay, so going back to this idea of trade-offs and choices and things like that, you know, what we have here is this concept of doing two things at once. Now, it is possible. You think of a company that's making wine. Also, the same company could also be producing grain, could be doing a little bit of both. The idea is they have a limited amount of resources in terms of equipment, people, employees, all that stuff, land, and they cannot throw. They have a certain amount of that, and they can rearrange those things, but they can't add to those things. So as you produce more of one product, again, notice how here we have zero production of wine, and at this point we now have 15 of grain. As we increase the amount of wine production, notice how the grain goes down. So again, wine is going up, grain is going down, wine is going up, grain is going down, wine is going up, grain is going down, wine is going up, grain is going down. And the idea is we can't produce, once we're producing maximum amount of wine, we can't produce any more wine, nor are we producing any grain at that point. So we can then take this information and graph this. Okay, this graph is actually called, okay, so just so we know, come test time, when we see this graph, that is called a production possibilities frontier. This is just the schedule here. And so this is the frontier, and it just takes the same information. Notice we have wine at 0, okay, and at 0 wine we have 15 grain, okay. At 5 wine we have 14, okay, and so they've plotted it at each point. And this just shows, when we connect all those dots, this just shows us the possibilities of production. Okay, the possibilities of production. And this is just one way to kind of show this. Now, that's not the only decision. When companies choose to produce more or less of a product, they're going to look at, how much does it cost to produce that product, how much can they make in selling that product, and then all the rules and regulations and the taxes and all of that. Those are other issues, but this is just a way of analyzing production, at least between two products. Now, in a lot of other companies, there's many, many more products, but this is just focusing on two. Okay, we have mentioned the concept of needs and then also wants. Okay, and we just need to get some definitions down. And I think once you look at it, it makes total sense, so it shouldn't be too difficult. A need, so to speak, is a basic requirement for survival. Food, shelter, clothing, all that kind of stuff. Now, a want can be a means of expressing a need. So, again, if we do need food, but how we satisfy that need for food is often a want. So we need food, but we don't necessarily need pizza. Okay. But I do want you to understand that these wants can be very powerful. So if you think of somebody who's addicted to, a drug or whatever, they don't need that drug, but the desire for that drug can exert very, very strong feelings. And we've already talked about services. Okay, this person right here is producing a service. He's cutting hair, and if you think about it, you go in with a certain amount of hair, you come out with less hair. So actually, this service actually takes away from you, and it's actually you're paying for the skills and abilities to produce that really good haircut. Okay, now for every product that's actually produced. Remember, we talked about this idea of goods versus products. We are talking about tangible or touchable or things that we can see kind of products, and we break those down into two categories. They're either a capital or a consumer good. Okay, make my arrow a little better there. Or it's one or the other. They're either capital or consumer, and it depends on how it's being used. If a customer is using it, then we use the term consumer good. If a company is using it to produce other goods, then we call it a capital good. Okay. And then the other way in which we categorize products is one or the other, is either durable or non-durable goods. Durable are things that last for quite a while, and so you would purchase it, and then eventually you would have to replace it. Okay, the people who actually use the goods and services are called consumers. You're a consumer when you go to a store and you buy a product. I'm a consumer when I go to a store and buy a product. Okay, in the process of using those products that we purchase, this lady here is buying some cheese, and she's going to eat that cheese, and that is consumption of that product. Now, same thing with paper. You're writing on a piece of paper for notes, hopefully right now at this very moment you are essentially consuming that pen. In fact, you're actually consuming, wherever you're sitting, you're consuming that chair or seat or desk or wherever you're sitting, because eventually it's going to break and fall apart. You're consuming the pen or the pencil that you're writing into. Okay. um, and then what we can do is we can also attach a dollar value to a product. Okay, so again, that would be value. So the value of anything is the amount of money we can make something. Now, if you've ever watched one of those shows, American Pickers, or any of those kind of shows where they antique roadhouse, things like what they roadshow, antique roadshow, what they do is they get a product, and they see what it's worth. And it's really one of those things. When you go to eBay, you can see what people are asking for the product. Now, value is what it's actually worth, not what we think it's worth in terms of cash. And so we sometimes hoard these products. We think they're super valuable, but they're really not. And so value really is a component of two things. When we look at the price of a product, a lot of it is determined by the scarcity, meaning how available is it, and then usefulness. How much do we need it as far as whatever we're going to do. And then when we take all of the things that you own, we add up the actual value of that. We could call that your wealth. Okay. Um, totally different concept. Talked about in the chapter, and this has to do with production. And the idea is we utilize a certain amount of resources to produce products, and it costs money. Just to break it down to the money, if we're going to have an employer hire employees, employer is paying the employee to produce products. Okay, so by having better tools, better equipment, that employee can get more done. That's higher productivity. So more productivity usually leads to more money over time. And so again, tools, employees, or systems can give you better productivity. Now, the two ways of sort of looking at our system is we can divide things up into product markets or factor markets. And the idea is where the producers offer those products for sale. And again, just two ways of looking at this. Where you see people purchasing products, those are product markets. Where we see people earning money for pay, we call that a factor market. Now, notice one place can be both. So if we go to a store, for the customers, that's a product market. For the workers, it's a factor market. So the idea is we go to work at the factor market, we make our money, okay, and we produce things of value that people want. And at the product market, people are purchasing those products. And that concludes the end of this chapter. Thank you very much. Make sure you're studying for the upcoming chapter. Bye-bye.